Welcome to this video of the omnipresence food for weight loss and cravings control. This is not by any means a exhaustive list of whatever food you should be eating, but I'm going to try to explain you what really are the food that should be for the 80% of the time within your nutrition, whether it's a recipe, whether you eat them on your own. That would leave 20% of selection of food selection that is basically allowing you to be more flexible, to be the food that you like, or to be more on the flexible side, because we know that to create weight loss and consistency, you need to be doing 80% of the things right, and 20% you can actually leave at choosing. If you did 80% of the meal selection right throughout the whole meal of your whole week or your whole month, you would see amazing results. Now, before we go into the list, and I'm going to show you some recipes as well, I really want to talk a little bit about before the context, because I always say if you have context, you understand, because as we know, there aren't any best or good food or bad food, because all the food includes calories. So all the foods that you're eating will have calories. So there is no such food that if you eat or you don't eat, you're going to be losing weight, because every single food has calorie. Therefore, even if it was celery, which is probably one of the lowest food in calorie food, you would still gain weight because it has a positive calorie balance. But when you understand how to select the food, how to cook the food, how to mix it within each other, it's going to be easier. And we really need to start by asking ourselves, why do we eat and why do we struggle with food? Why is it so hard to lose weight and to keep it off? Number one, because there is two proportional axis, right? There is like we eat for survival purposes, so we don't want to be starving nor be stuffed, but you want to be satisfied, right? But we also eat for taste purposes, right? If we eat too bland, then we don't stick to the diet, to the nutrition, because it's too bland, it's too boring. If you eat so much too tasty, then you binge eat, because usually the tasty food is a combination of fat and carbs, and they will get you to binge eat more often, as is difficult to maintain. So you need to kind of find a way. You never want to be starving, you never want to be stuffed. You always want to be between hungry and full, and it's called satisfied, right? And likewise, you don't want to eat very bland food all the time, like broccoli all the time, or like very boring food, we call it. But nor you want to eat stuff like donuts, desserts, ice cream all the time, because that's gonna make you binge eat. It's going to make you binge eat psychologically, because it's easier to have cravings when we think about the food. It's also going to make you binge eat physiologically, because as we elevate insulin and as we have a high calorie dense food, a combo of fat and sugar, it will make you eat more often. So you need to be here, right? And what really that means is that the ideal food are something like between 5 and 7 taste level, and much like I said before, within the hunger and full, right? You don't want to use, like, you don't want to fall into this category, because it's gonna be probably usually triggering yourself. Like you're gonna probably usually be eating trigger foods, like chips, for example, like things that even like some sort of some sort of carbs at times, like pizza and burgers and all that stuff. Those tasty food are really hard to compensate, right? So when it comes to losing weight, most people make the huge mistake of actually following a diet. Right now, this is kind of like our pyramid of weight loss, and I reverse the pyramid, because usually everybody wants to start as a diet on the bottom, but the diet is on the top, right? So we need to reverse that and really get clear on what gets you to lose weight. What gets you to lose weight is really energy balance and hormonal balance, right? So it's energy deficit, calorie deficit, and you do that by managing hunger. You do that by modulating and tapering carb. There is a certain amount of carb that you actually can process. And then food choices and quality, as you see, is only in the first place. It's only after timing. I would even argue that sometimes timing comes first. Now, this means that it doesn't really matter what we're going to choose as food, but there are foods that are going to be much more satiating, much more higher in protein. And I wanted to make a list so that you can have a sense of what really that means to you. So what I'm going to do, instead of like most of the people that in this space, what they do, they say the 10 best food loss, weight loss foods, right? Or the best 10 foods to control cravings. They give you this food, something like that, and you probably wouldn't understand really anything of this use, because like you see it and it's like, okay, cool, I know I need to eat X, right? What does that mean? Like I thought to make a video because at least I give you the context, right? You need to get concepts so that you have the foundation and you can actually understand what that means to you specifically. So any sort of eggs, white or full eggs, is a good choice because you can eat them on your own. You can mix them with a lot of other protein, and you can also include them in any version of healthy cakes that you do, any version of healthy cookies that you do, and there are some examples inside these groups that I'm going to show you later. But you want to be using eggs pretty much on a, when I say on a daily basis or on a weekly basis at least, okay, or by daily basis. The same thing for Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt, quark, low-fat milk, any sort of this nature of food, like this kind of dairy, should be a staple. Versus, you can also use obviously low-fat cheese that you don't include it, but anything low-fat and anything dairy versus completely full-blown regular cheese, it will be much better because it will minimize your insulin spikes and it will maximize your protein to carbohydrates ratio, but also it will maximize your satiety. Okay, like when it comes to especially quark, low-fat milk, yogurts versus cheeses are much lower in calorie. Any sort of lean meats, when it comes to chicken, veal, turkey, compared to fatty meat, you can still include it, but I would probably go towards red meat, if anything, lean red meat. But I would prioritize those versus other choices. Obviously, for a matter of calorie, anything protein wise and calorie wise are pretty much the same. But if you had a lot of fat into it, it will essentially be more saturated fat, which will make this food a little bit more fat in general and higher in calorie. It's also easier to take this kind of meats and make a tortilla out of it, a burrito out of it, and obviously if you make a burrito, you can take a low calorie tortilla. You can put some low calorie cream cheese or low fat cream cheese, and then you put this thing here and with some sort of hot sauce, and obviously it comes out to be probably a burrito of between 350 to 500 calories. If you were to add fatty meat and if you were to add regular cheese, it would comes out to 700 to 900 calories. So look, you see the difference, right? The context that you're getting, this is the king, right? Same thing with fish. Any fish is good. It's usually high in protein, is high in healthy fat, but it's also, if you get the highest in healthy fat is the fish, the highest in calories. So like you want to be choosing low calorie choices better than if you're trying to lose weight, when like fulfilling foods, high volume food, but also low in calorie. Shrimps is an excellent example. Tilapia is an excellent example. Salmon is a little bit higher in fat, but if you eat a piece of salmon and it satiates you, that's an excellent example as well. Smoked salmon, for example, smoked salmon for most people is a buffer food. Like you don't get to eat 1 pound of smoked salmon and like you don't get ever to hit that. Like it's too fulfilling to do that. So you always need to see it in a way that which food fulfills you, right? This is a family of protein kind of snacks, which is basically protein bars, protein puddings, protein shakes, and I want you to get the gist of it. And it's like, if it's the best when they're higher in fiber, the brand really doesn't matter. This is some European brands. But the higher in protein to calorie ratio, as well as higher in fiber, it will be something that you need to eat. A lot of people, even if they're processed, by the way, a lot of people say, oh, there is sweetener in there is this and that. And the problem is that people don't really understand that if you don't eat those when you have a sweet tooth, then you're going to go ahead and eat other stuff that are sweet. And that's going to pretty much make things worse. They're very high in volume, in satiety, and they have good taste, so include those things. Likewise here, I put hot meal because I mean porridge. When I say hot meals, like it's kind of like a high density calorie food. Like it's not low dense calorie food, it's a high dense. But when you take 20 grams of hot meal, for example, you put some white eggs, liquid eggs in there, or full eggs, and you put some protein, like maybe a scoop of protein powder, and then you make some sort of a porridge out of it with coconut milk or with low-fat milk. It's very high satiety, it's very good in taste, and is probably a breakfast around 500 calories compared to having a bunch of other stuff, that usually are higher in calorie. These are cereal, which are pop cereal. Like usually there are like maybe you can even see stuff with chocolates and stuff. Pop cereal, like everything that is popped, they're higher in volume. They're gonna weigh less compared to regular cereal. And usually, whether or not they have or don't have a lot of sugar in there, they would be a better choice because they're very high in volume. So if you were to take 30 grams of oatmeal versus 30 grams of this, you would see a mountain of these things compared to the hot meal. So like you can use this strategically. 10 grams of that is very low in glycemic load. That means that even if they have a spike, for example, in your insulin, for those that are worried about insulin spike, when you take only 10 grams, the whole calorie load, and you mix that with some grapes, with some blueberry, with some blackberries, and then you put inside, for example, a Greek yogurt, is something that is going to take away that sweet tooth, and it's going to allow you to feel satiated, okay? And that's actually the thing. A very good starch choice are either rice cake or a waza cracker or any cracker that really you can eat a few of them and you're full rather than eat the whole box. Okay, so you're gonna need to test which cracker. Like I know rice cake for a fact, you don't get to eat a full box of rice cake. You're gonna be overfilled. When you eat 3 or 4 of them, you're gonna already be full. Okay, so like you want to be using those things as a side, pretty much in any dish, right? When you get, let's say, like a vegetable with a meat, and then you get 1 or 2 rice cake. Likewise, this one, cream of wheat. I'm not a huge fan of this brand, for example, but if you go to an organic store and you get a good anxious grain or cream of wheat or whatever cream of wheat you can find, or spelta cream of wheat, or kamut cream of wheat, or anything like that as cream of wheat with a little bit of a maybe a little bit purest type of protein of grain than regular carb. It's amazing because it has a lot of fiber. It's very good on fulfill, like you get very fulfilled, and it's very high in protein. So like you get to cook between 30 and 50 grams of this thing, and it's like a full plate, and you're never really full. Sorry, you never really like you're overfilled. You never really get to hit the whole thing, right? So it's very important that you use that, especially around your workout time, because a lot of people say, oh, I'm not gonna eat that because it has wheat, the wheat on it, right? And then like they go ahead and get like a full or 2 or 3 avocado. If you know, I didn't put avocado because it's very high in fat. Even if it's good fat, it's very high in fat, very high in calorie. And if you compare that with a piece of lean meat, for example, you would get a lot more protein from the meat and probably a lot more satiated. Okay, so like as you see, there are certain food that they didn't make on my list. Then anything that is related to fruit, it will be good. I didn't make an exhaustive list because it changes about a couple of grams of carbs and a couple of grams of calories. There is no much of a difference. It's better when you get berries, the family, or the watermelons because they're higher in fiber, higher in water, and it was gonna make you feel fuller for longer. But anything, it's probably a good choice. There is the star fruit. It's called like there is like a small star, looks like a star. You find that a lot in US. I don't know about in Europe, but I think you find it pretty much anywhere. That's probably the lowest calorie fruit you're gonna find. Yet it's up to your choice. When it comes to vegetable and tubers, I put them on the same category for me because again, it's not about whether or not they have more or less carbs. It's about the calorie to satiation ratio when it comes to taking away your cravings. It's important to understand that. So you can mix the onion, for example, onion with potato and some carrots. These fruit like mushroom, zucchini, cauliflower are a list that you can use pretty much to cook with anything. You can put some spices in there, sweeter stuff, more salty stuff. You can make any sort of dish that you please, and this is why that's what it is. If you are in my program and you're receiving this, you are already inside the group, and you will now you basically see what I'm taking you now with the recipe. If you are not inside in my challenges or in my groups, and you're receiving this list, I urge you to join this thing. It's free. And when it's gonna take you, it's gonna take you to this recipe list here. That is gonna get bigger and bigger as we move forward. I just put the egg parmigiana. It's called eggplant parmigiana in here. You're gonna find tons of resources in here. But basically, every single time I give you the context of not only how to cook these things, but why why there are good choices to go. Here you have like a full recipe of wrap, for example. But when you go inside here, you get the context of understanding that what I just said to you, all these foods, you need to understand how to mix them. If you like ice cream, for example, and this is for, like, if you like ice cream, for example, you can really make things like using things such as, for example, like I said, 20% of the food needs to be food at your choice, and you can use hollow top, for example, and you smash 20 grams of rice cakes in there, you get some protein powder, peanut butter protein powder, and you get some whipping cream, low fat if you want, and you make like an amazing dessert. Anything like you can make, like I said, a tortilla based, with everything I just said before, sliced cheese. You can make things such as, there's a lot of desserts in here, because obviously I want to show people that, and by the way, all these recipes are under 500 calorie. So if you ate 80% of what I said, and even if you ate those every single day that you see here, you would be able to see the benefit of it. You see that like I said before, you can make oatmeal out of it. You can make, the infamous low fat, high anabolic French toast that you obviously you take like toast bread, you dip them into liquid eggs, you turn them upside down, you cook them with some oil spray, and then at the end you put some cinnamon and some sweetener in there, and then you put some ice cream on top of it, right? So there is tons of recipe that you're gonna find inside the group itself, but the gist of it is like really use 80% of your logic to cook with foods and to include this type of food which are low in calorie, high in protein and fiber, and are very high in satiation ratio. If you do that, by nature, you would feel like you're never on a diet, you weren't gonna lose weight, and it's gonna give you more freedom when you cannot control food, because these are the food of the 80% of the food that you can control, and then the rest of the time that you cannot control food is gonna be then up to really what you want to eat, right? Because you don't need to be perfect every single time. With this being said, I hope this is useful, and I'm gonna see you inside the group.